considering that Drake and Joe Budden are not friends, it was a little bit odd to see in the amended complaint from Drake that Joe is included as a witness, a co-signer, a credibility booster, if you will, for Drake's allegations against UMG using bots to elevate Not Like Us. Now, Drake and Joe Budden are not friends now, but that wasn't always the case. It wasn't always hostile between the two.
Joe Budden TV, and look who it is.
Yes.
Drizzy.
Grateful to be here. You know?
Drizzy, Mr. So Far Gone.
Yep.
Has come. You've taken over New York City.
Yeah, and you didn't just catch me out here too. I came to support Joe. Just for the record of anybody watching.
And I appreciate it.
I think it would be fair to say that the only thing these two people have in common is academics. And to think about it, that might not even be true because I'm not really sure Drake messes with academics like that, really. So they may not even have that in common. Let's take a look back at Drake and Joe's history and what caused them to be where they are today. It started in 2016. If you're already familiar, feel free to fast forward to I'd say around the 13:10 mark in the video. Drake and Joe's relationship really took a turn in 2016 when Joe commented on Drake's performance on his album Views. And let me just say, though, one thing that I noticed, even when I went back and looked at some of the critiques from Joe of Drake, Joe has said too many times to count that he's a fan of Drake. That I felt like in his criticism, he was really even pushing Drake to be better, to live up to what he kind of glorified as the early Drake. And I've heard a lot of people say that. So Joe isn't alone in that thought. But when Joe critiqued Views, that is when everything started taking a left.
I think that kid on that album that I heard sounds real fucking uninspired. That's what I think. I think that music is real good. You can't fool a real nigga. You can fool them. You can fool the people that are not paying attention. That music sounds good and I enjoy it. I played that album all the way to DC and all the way back multiple times. 40, you sound amazing. 40 continues to progress. Drake, you do not. I said the other day on this podcast, I miss the Drake that starts the waves, not hops on other waves. And I'll say it again. I miss Drake that pushes the fucking agenda, not let the agenda push him.
I'm going to include the link to Joe's full response to Views in the description box. And I encourage you all to listen to his full critique. Joe was calling out what he was seeing from Drake, the artist, 9 years ago. And everything he said is applicable to what we saw in Drake's battle with Kendrick. So Drake didn't like Joe's critique of Views, and Joe didn't like Drake's response to his critique. So Joe ended up releasing a few diss tracks towards Drake, and they ended up having, some more back and forth, back and forth. And I think the dust started to settle down quite a bit after we got out a little ways from 2016. And even like with this post that took place in 2020, they seem to be in a much better space.
Come on, you got to talk to more people than just Elliot.
Nah, yo, I can't do this with you right now.
Why?
Because I can't.
Because you're at the embassy?
Nah, I know where this is gonna go. It's gonna go left.
No, it's not. Yo, why do you think that about me, man? We can have like a smooth talk. You do it with Tory Lanez and all your other fucking buddies.
It's gonna be bad for the brand right now. Oh,
but all the other OVO dudes kick it with me.
I know. Everybody fucks with you.
You see what's happening in this exchange? The chemistry that's happening between the two of them. This is what academics actually wants from Drake, I think. But yeah.
Yo, go back to your live, man. I'm gonna talk. we have an interview to do for like when the album's ready. I don't want to do this right now.
You've been saying that for a year, and then now I have a whole leaked album with like 30 Drake joints.
That's old shit. That's not the new shit. Don't worry.
All right, fine. Enjoy yourself over there.
I'm gonna be in your comments though. Don't worry.
Yo, but let me ask you, why do you troll me this way? Honestly, like, you don't think it's hurtful to me?
Why? What do you mean? It's with an encouraging undertone.
Yeah, I'm hanging up, nigga. Bye.
Friendly, right? Very friendly. I mean, from how that looked, it looked like they pretty much recovered from all the chaos that came from Joe critiquing views. But then Joe critiqued for all the dogs, and Drake crashed out. Now, for the record, Joe's critique of For All the Dogs was not all bad. It was a mixed review. He called out the things that, he thought, were good, and he definitely called out the things he thought were not so good, including his performance on First Person Shooter. He didn't like his performance on that. He didn't like, him letting J. Cole take the lead, and it's just a lot there. He also continued to say Drake needs to innovate. Drake needs to mature his music. So he again, I feel similar to what he did back in 2016. He was really exasperated with still waiting for Drake to be the Drake that I think he became a fan of. Drake didn't appreciate this critique any more than he appreciated the critique on views, and he responded to Joe with a long Dear Joe post. And it reads, at Joe Budden, you have failed at music. You left it behind to do what you are doing in this clip because this is what actually pays your bills. For any artist watching this, just remember you are watching a failure give their opinion on his idea of a recipe for success. A quitter give their opinion on how to achieve longevity. You switched careers because the things that pop into your brain had you broke living check to check, and the raps you write had 450 men showing up to your shows in dusty ENYCE jeans to screw up their face to Mood Music 29 and pretend you are the GOAT. Please, to any artist that's doing what they feel is right, don't let these opinions affect your mindset after the fact. This guy is the poster child of frustration and surrendering. You retired and we never hung up your jersey. We don't even remember your number. We know you for doing this. You withdrew from rap, not because you accomplished all you need to. It's because it wasn't working for you. I never want anybody in the generations to think that the whole everybody's entitled to their opinion is a real thing. This is a man projecting his own self hate and the fact I did and continue to do everything he wanted to do for himself. If you need it put in simpler terms, I own a 767. He owns a modest house in the 973 and flies first class on special occasions. Mm-mm-mm. Sassy. Very, very sassy. Now, Drake had all that to say in 2023. Fast forward 2024. We all know the year of the beef, the Shakespearean beatdown. Drake still had words for Joe Budden. Drake sarcastically mentions Joe and Taylor made freestyle using Tupac's AI generated voice to say the last two lines. Talk about him liking young girls. That's a gift from me. Heard it on the Budden podcast. It's gotta be true. Still taking digs. Now, at this point of the beef with Kendrick, Drake has dropped push ups. He drops this one, the Taylor made freestyle. So, why not give a line to Joe Budden? I mean, he's giving lines to other people and I think push-ups. And so, at this point, he feels that he's two diss tracks up on Kendrick. And so I think he's flexing a little bit. So he got a little bit to give to a few people who he think has crossed him. That was a mistake. And boy, did he learn, did Drake learn how much of a mistake that was. And I say that, but maybe he hasn't. I mean, he is still in court with lawsuits, but he know he got his ass whooped. That I am certain of, because in short order, Kendrick wrapped him up nicely and put a bow on it, and he defeated him in the beef. Now, after the defeat, Drake is still posting on his Fista account about Joe Budden. So I believe Drake must think Joe looks really bad in this picture because or in this video, because he posted it with Lil Wayne's Let It All Work Out playing in the background. Something to say about it.
Drake, don't shoot at me now that you ice cold. I'm not doing it back and forth with a corpse.
Come on, man.
I wanted to do it when you was lit. It was fun. Don't go get shot all through the year and then pop up like Bernie at Weekend at Bernie's wanting to shoot at me now. No, nigga. Go spin. Spin the fucking block.
Now, you would think that after Drake got his ass whooped, licking his wounds, going to Australia, doing whatever other things he's doing to distract himself, filing lawsuits, you would think he has pressing, way more pressing things to tend to. But he still has time to throw another shot at Joe Budden. So on February 14th, 2025, Drake and Party Next Door released the collab project, Some Sexy Songs for You. On that project, there was a song, Give Me a Hug, where Drake says to Melissa Ford, who is a co-host on Joe Budden's podcast, that you, a legend from the six, hate to see you with a D sucker. So, out of everything that Drake has been through, out of everything Drake could rap about, write about, quote unquote, sing about, he still has room to throw shots at Joe. Now, I am a bit suspicious of this, and I wonder sometimes if Drake, just in trying to keep his, traction or wanting to be front and center, is he sometimes using Joe as a stimulus package because he knows that when Joe says something, everybody talks about it, it goes viral, and so on. So I do wonder if that's a part of what's happening here. But again, after everything he's been through, everything he could talk about in his new music, he still has references to Joe Budden. So after all of this back and forth, after all of this bad blood, Drake's lawyers includes references to Joe and his podcast in the amended filing. And that is a trip to me. If this thing actually goes to a jury trial and if a judge actually allows, any of this type of information in, if Joe Budden ends up on a witness list for Drake's side, I just cannot even imagine. I just cannot even imagine. I actually find it hard to believe that a judge would let Joe's statement come before a jury, especially when all of his podcasts began with this disclaimer.
Thoughts, views, and opinions expressed by this podcast, as well as its hosts, are for entertainment purposes only. I repeat, it is not serious. It is not real.
But anyway, in the amended document, Drake's lawyers made changes to include the following. In June 2024, one podcast host stated, "Not only do I not care that he, Kendrick Lamar, used bots, but I knew he did." In a podcast clip posted to his YouTube channel on June 23rd, 2024, he continued, "Y'all didn't know that Kendrick used bots? You thought that this was just the first time miraculously that a Drake record ever had more dislikes than likes? Or you didn't know that that was bots? Bots to me was a part of how you win the war versus Drake." Now, here's the thing. Drake is no longer accusing Spotify of botting. He is no longer accusing UMG of doing the botting, but he is accusing them of allowing third party botters to bot. And he is blaming UMG for not stopping whomever these third party botters are from botting, because he said they had the power to stop the behavior and they chose not to do so. So that's a very weird way that they have kind of circled that wagon to go from blaming Spotify to say, oh no, Spotify was a victim in this too because it was done to them, is how I interpret an earlier passage within the document. But after saying all of that, Drake, in essence, by including Joe Budden, says, hey, and that's my man Joe. That's my man Joe. He knows what time it is. He's a veteran in this industry. He knows what's going on behind the curtain. Now, if you noticed in the amended statement, when they're talking about Joe and his podcast and what Joe said, the lawyers, Drake's lawyers, do not mention Joe's name in the body of the amended filing. They do not mention Joe Budden podcast in the body of the amended filing. They do reference Joe Budden and Joe Budden's podcast in the footnotes, which I think that is a little shade also from Drake, because Drake knows that, Joe may be rich and successful and all those things, but you better believe he wants to eat off of being connected and named and mentioned and all of this stuff going on with Drake. So I think Drake did throw a little shade there by just including his name and the name of his podcast in the footnote. And I really think that because how many other YouTube content creators, I mean major YouTubers, did Drake name in the filing, and actually even included pictures of them in the filing? So this dynamic between Drake and Joe Budden is an interesting one. And it might be one that ends up with us seeing Joe Budden in court as a witness for Drake. Now, if you said you had that on your 2025 bingo card, you are a liar, honey.